Hello, all you lovely freedom people out there, and welcome to today's Fireside Freedom Chat on the Freedom People Podcast, where we get into the nitty-gritties of all your freedoms and my freedoms, all the freedoms that we can think of anyway, as we collectively take this journey to ultimate freedom together. I'm your host, Bradley Freedom. Today's guests, yeah, you heard me right, guests. Today we actually have two guests on the show. That's Ron Gibson and Ben Barlow. And we're here to talk to you guys today about land patents. Land patents are one of our most popular subjects and requested information that we got out there. So really hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did having it. It was a lot of fun and pretty funny, if you ask me. Anyway, we're going to jump right into it, but before we do, I need you to head on over to thefreedompeople.org and sign up as a contributing member today. It really helps us and supports us in our mission to create this new earth, this new economy. We've got a job board, a business directory. If you're looking to bring your business out of the public and into the private where you own it and the government service corporations don't own it, then hit us up. Again, go over to thefreedompeople.org, send us a message, and we'll get right back to you. Come on, let's go.
Okay. There you go.
So yeah, we'll record it, but yeah, it's pretty easy going the way we do things. It's a Fireside Freedom Chat. And feel free to cuss, say whatever you want, speak your heart. We that's what we're all about, right? Freedom and speaking the truth as much as we can and what we know it to be. How about Ron, how about for the people who don't know you, you want to just explain to everybody who you are?
Well, I'm me.
I'll give you that.
No, my name's Ron Gibson, as you well know. I've grew up on a ranch out in the Applegate, which is about 30 miles from where my office is here. And anyway, went to grade school and junior high and high school there in the city next to us called Grants Pass, Oregon. And then I joined the Marine Corps.
Hoorah, Devil Dog.
Almost 4 years in the Marine Corps. I'm a Vietnam veteran. Then I went to law school and engineering school. Actually, engineering was my primary studies, and then my secondary was constitutional law. So, anyway, when I got out of the construction and rock crushing and mineral processing and mining, I had a lot of people wanting to know elements of law. So I just started doing it, kind of help people out, and my golly, it's just exploded. And I did a seminar up in Kalispell, Montana about 6 years ago, whatever it was. And that thing just went viral, went all over the place. And, it's just grown out of that. And I've been trying to help people to understand one basic concept that is not really registered yet, and that's they're coming after your land. Mm-hmm. And make no mistake about it, it's not if, the issue is when.
Yes.
And so I embarked, in fact, all my life, I'm not a drinker, I'm not a smoker, I don't chew, I don't take drugs, but I study. And I've spent a lifetime of study on constitutional law and land law, mining law, some other related subjects, but those are kind of my priorities, if you please. And so then here about 6 years ago, 5 years, whatever it's been, I wrote a book called What You Need to Know About Land Patents. And for probably prior to that, about 10 years, people kept saying, Ron, you need to write a book on that because of all that you know and have studied on land law. And so anyway, just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And so finally I broke down and wrote the book. And then after it went over so well, then they said, you need to write a second book. And so I wrote a second book called You're Not a Slave. And in that, I proved that you're not obligated, the landowner is not obligated to pay property tax, even though, property tax, as I state in my book, is probably one of the most misunderstood taxes in our land. And, you have different jurisdiction. The taxing can only be done on real estate, not on allodial title land. And so, and Congress unlawfully in 1946, June 11th to be exact, implemented by a congressional mandate the Administrative Procedures Act. That's what we've all been under all of this time, which in essence was to create a corporation to masquerade as a government. And we're not bound by that. And there's a very famous case called City of Dallas versus Mitchell. And in that case, on the third page, it stated the court conveyed very accurately that our rights don't come from government. Our rights come from our Creator. Mm-hmm. And we are not, and this is a direct quote on page 3 of that ruling, that we're only subject to government regulations and rules if in fact we volunteer to be subject to those rules and regulations. Mm-hmm. Other than that, we're not subject to it. So that case is kind of the premise that I started building, the thought and the structure of my book. I've got a third book that I'm working on. Haven't had a chance to work on it the last 4 or 5 years, but it's called Statutes and Codes versus Private Property. And you all know what an attack is on. You go to build a room on or fix a faucet, they want you to buy a damn permit. And you're not subject to buying a permit. And so anyway, there's a very famous case, goes back, excuse me, to 1984, and it's a United States Supreme Court case called, Summa Corporation versus State of California Coastal Commission. And I'll try to be as brief with this as I can, but the state of California arbitrarily and capriciously decided they were going to take Summa's land, the lagoons, from West Los Angeles all the way to the Pacific Ocean shore for purpose of giving public access. And Summa Corporation said, bullshit, that's our land and it's under a land patent. And so it got into a hell of a dogfight. And what Summa did not recognize at the time, and I try to tell people this, whenever you're dealing with the subject of land patent in a lawsuit, none of the lower courts have jurisdiction to make a ruling on. They can affirm it. In other words, to acknowledge that it is a land patent, and I'll share something with you here in a minute to kind of illustrate that point. But the point being is that they went through the Superior Court and then into the California Appeals Court. They went to the California Supreme Court, and all of these courts, all the way up to the Supreme Court, ruled against Summa. They just kind of rubber stamp it all the way down the line. When they got to the Supreme Court ripped the guts out of all of these lower courts cases and rulings, I should say. And on the basis, there were a number of things that they addressed. Number one was the treaty. All patents are protected by treaty law. Okay? Now, what court do you know, either one of you, that has the power to overthrow or overrule a treaty? None of them. None of them.
None of them.
So that shot California's argument all to hell. And then they addressed the issue of privity. And privity is a Latin term for the purpose of giving them lawful standing, it's called privity, of which to intervene into a case as a third party. Now, having said that, let me digress a moment. The land patents, when they are created by the United States government to the grantee, which the grantee is the first one to receive that patent. The government is always the grantor. Anything after that, when the grantee then disposes of the land, it goes to either an heir and somebody that inherits the land, or it goes to somebody that acquires it by whatever means, and that's called an assignee. Okay? We are all assignees of that because we're not a direct heir. So on the basis of that issue, the Supreme Court told the state of California, for you to have standing to intervene into Suma's patented property, you had to be named on the original patent at the time that the patent was issued. And I've helped a lot of people in a lot of different, I say a lot, numerous cases of which somebody's trying to shove bullshit down their throat. And I say, let's get your patent and hold it right up in their face and say, show me where your name is on this land patent. And if it's not there, they have no jurisdiction. And that's verified by numerous cases called Monterey versus Del Monte Zune, Pizzalio versus Rhode Island. I'm trying to think, there's 5 or 6 off the top of my head here. But the point being...
Well, let's talk about that for a sec, Ron. You're saying right now...
Real quick, sorry. Next thing I wanted to do is introduce you, Ben. Like, okay, so this is new for us. Is like we usually only have one-on-one kind of conversations, right? Generally, but so this is an amazing, awesome first time for us. And so I wanted to give everyone an opportunity to know who the heck the third dude is, right? Well, everybody, this is Ben Barlow from the statenationals.us website, and Breaking Barlow. Follow his ass. He's amazing. But anyway, so just tell them who you are, Ben, real quick, and then we'll go back to it.
My name is Ben Barlow. I'm a general contractor in Salt Lake City, and I came to this movement through going to a David Straight seminar, which then going through the David Straight seminar, I went to one seminar, and 3/4 of the way through day one, I wanted David Straight to mentor me. Since that was August of 2020, since then I have put on 10 David Straight seminars, and in this process got introduced to Ron and also introduced to Brad, because Brad had went to a seminar down in Arizona. And so, like I said, I'm a general contractor here, and this whole thing is just my passion, is to getting into taking back our rights, freedoms, and liberties. And so that's what the seminar is called, is Your Rights, Your Life, presented by Ben Barlow. And of course, we bring David Straight on as the guest speaker, and then we're looking to bring on more guest speakers. So, and that again is how we got introduced to Ron, and here we are today.
Amazing. Okay, well, sorry to interrupt the flow there, fellas, but yeah, go ahead, Ben, jump in there.
So Ron, because I'm going through the land patent process right now and following your book. As I perfect that land patent and I put my chain link into the last land patent, then unless there's somebody else named in that, nobody can interfere with that land patent. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
Okay.
Remember, in this process, we are not creating a new land patent. We are bringing forward the existing patent.
Okay.
On every land patent, it says hereby granted to the undersigned, to their heirs and assigns forever. And I'm looking at my watch here at 10 after 1, and forever isn't up yet. So, and that was the point I'm making. So that land patent is still valid, and it's still in full force and effect today as it was the day that it was issued to the grantee. So that's the premise that we work off of. And then there's a Supreme Court case called Hooper versus Shimer, where the Supreme Court stated that if you can bring the original documents forward and show that you're an owner of record and have an unbroken chain of title, then you can claim that land patent in your name. And that's what I teach people to do.
Okay. Now, Ron, you also said in a prior conversation, there's 11 different types of patents.
That is correct.
What does that equate? What are those 11 different types of land patents, or just patents as it relates to land?
They all have to do with land, either directly or indirectly.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
do you want me to read them off to you?
Yeah, let's hear
Yeah,
'em.
I'm really curious. I'm really curious to know what these are, because that
Hang
kind of
on.
blows my mind, right? I mean,
Let me grab my book.
sure.
Okay.
Are we talking like, I don't know, like design patent versus a building patent versus a human gene
Well, so let's talk about
patenting?
what he said about needing a permit. I
Yeah.
already know the reason why they want you to get permits, because I'm a general contractor, is they want to have on file what your build out is. So in case they have any problems in your home and they have to send in the police, a hostage situation, they can pull up the layout of your home so
That
that
really
they're
what
not going in blind.
okay. Okay. But all right. Well, I that's okay. That's interesting, but I'd like to know what the odds or the percentage of odds of people coming into my house and me needing SWAT to come in. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
That's just what I found out through going through permits,
right,
is the
right.
whole purpose of why they need all these permits, and you got to show them drawings and all this stuff.
Yeah, yep, yep, yeah. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, yeah. So what do you got, Ron?
Okay. There are 11 different types of land patents. Number 1 is a cash entry patent. Number 2 is a credit patent. Number 3 is a homestead patent, and that's where the majority of the patents are situated, is in a homestead patent. Number 4, there's a military warrant patent. Number 5 is a mineral patent. That's called the mining law, HR 365, dated 1866, 1870, and 1872 is the General Mining Act. the, the mining patents, I might mention, is extremely powerful. They've been trying for the last 100 years, trying to dismantle the mineral patents. And they cannot do it because it was instituted right after and made an official grant by Congress after the Civil War. The Civil War stopped in 1865, and both the North and the South acknowledged of a tremendous shortage of military supply and hardware. So therefore, under Title 30, where the mining law is located, 21A through 54, they extended that to 1801 to 1811, still under Title 30. So the mining law is tied to national defense. Are you with me?
Yes, absolutely.
So for that reason, they can't break the back of the mining law. And they've been trying for years. The environment, this stuff drives environmentalists absolutely wacko. But it's for a very constructive purpose. We would not have the economy today if it wasn't for mining. There's an old saying, if it isn't grown, it's mined.
Yes.
And if I can digress just a moment, the Department of Geology and Mineral Industry used to have a video that they rented out, and it's called Out of the Rock. And it's a mining promotional video. But I'm telling you, they went from everything from the outer space to the most sub-micron application of minerals and byproducts that you can imagine. And then toward the end of it, the narrator asked a very profound question. And this is the question that he asked. What would our life be like without mining? And then the camera shows a woman in her kitchen, in her home. And the camera moves up to the clock on the wall. The clock disappears. Moves over to the coffee pot. The coffee pot disappears. To the toaster, disappears. The refrigerator disappears. The countertops disappear. The stove disappears. You see where I'm going?
Oh, everything.
This thing goes on and on and on.
Right.
And all of a sudden, there's no sheeting, there's no nails, there's no lumber, there's no nothing. And if they'd have taken to its proper conclusion, that lady would have been standing there with no clothes on.
Absolutely.
Because it takes mined material in the textile industry of which to produce clothing, cloth, silk, whatever the case you want to call it. So I'm just sharing with you a little bit of background of why that mining law is so very important.
That is fabulous information too.
That's
Okay,
amazing.
we have the mining law under number 5. There are three different types of patent. There's a load claim patent, there's a placer patent, and there's a mill site patent. Number 6 is private land claim patent. Turn my page here.
Is all this in your book, Ron?
Yes, every bit.
Okay.
It's on page 9 and 10.
Okay.
You don't have my book?
I've got your book. I haven't finished reading the whole thing.
Well, you better get started because it's only on page 9 and 10. What's the matter with you?
Page
I've
1,
got my
Ben Barlow.
helpers helping me through the process,
You
but
know
I've already
what?
been through it.
The damn kids anyway. It takes them everything, you know. Okay, number 7 is railroad patents. Railroad patents are all still in existence today. The railroad pays absolutely no property tax because they never took it into a warranty deed. They got, and it's a special grant by Congress called the Railroad Act, and therefore the railroads were given every other section to build a railroad as a contract. And when they did, then they patented them that land. So the railroad is the largest land holder in the United States.
So by you having a house that used to be on that was built on top of railroad land, by you going back and perfecting that land patent, that automatically puts you back under no taxes.
Well, it doesn't if it's been converted by some sale agreement to a warranty deed.
Okay.
We're right back to that damn rattlesnake that keeps biting us.
Okay.
The warranty deed was implemented by virtue of an unlawful act of Congress. And you guys need to know this. In 1946, June 11th to be exact, Congress implemented the Administrative Procedures Act. That turned everything into a corporation and or contract. And then they claimed that they were a lawful government, which was an absolute fraud on its face. As a result of that enactment unlawfully, then the government started redefining legal terms. Everything to do with land prior to that time was defined as land, was identified as land, it was sold as land. Then they redefined it there for the purpose of control and money to real estate. Now here's how they did it. Let's say that you bought a property in June 1st of 1946, and then you go to the recorder's office to have it recorded. They took that patent before, all the way back to the original issuance of that patent, was the fact that when the person owning it conveyed it to the next party who was now acquiring it, the patent went with it. I want to read you something. To convey a title, the seller himself must have a title to the property, which is the subject of the transfer and its general rule. Okay?
Okay.
Somebody has to have a title. The only people that had a title was the patent holder. So when they took it after 1946 to the county recorder to get it recorded, the county recorders took that document and kept it. They did not stamp it and give it back. Instead of lieu of giving back the original patent, they then issued a warranty deed, and the guy said, hey, what the hell's going on? Well, that's your title. Well, they didn't know the difference between, because nobody had ever had a warranty deed, so they just accepted it right after the war, and everybody family get a job and build a nation.
So it sounds like theft to me.
Well, it's fraud in its nth degree.
Yeah.
It's what we call in law a compensatory taking, and as a result of that, it makes it very, very difficult for people to understand what happened, because everything was done behind closed doors. And then they were told, and we're gullible in this country, unfortunately. For the most part, they'll believe anything. And so here we are now, have got this warranty deed for the last 75 years, and that warranty deed has absolute, well, let me put it this way. A warranty deed only conveys two things. It acknowledges, excuse me, it acknowledges an equity interest in a given piece of property. And the second thing it does is allow for possession, but absolutely no right of ownership. The only title there is to land is an allodial title, such as we're talking about here. So that's what happened in this whole scenario. Then they started redefining other terms, just like peace officers. They used to be called peace officers. Now they're law enforcement, because now government works on the element of force, not in law or right or wrong or fairness, any of that. It's all by force. Talking about kicking the door down. Here you go.
Yes.
The other thing that they redefined was the coroner's office. It used to be the coroner. Now it's medical examiner. And that's under the jurisdiction of the state police, when in fact the coroner had his own jurisdiction. Nobody could tell him or control him. He investigated, he did autopsies, whatever the case was. So, and the list goes on. I've just named 2 or 3 of them. So that's what they've done to manipulate the American people into being subjects or slaves. That's why I wrote the book, You're Not a Slave. And in that book, I prove that you're not obligated to pay property taxes on private property.
That is awesome.
So anyway, then we have state select patents. That's when the government gives large lots of land to states for disbursement. Utah falls under that category, a lot of it. And then town site patents are number 10, and town lot patents are number 11. Those are the 11 different patents, and they're in your book, page 9 and 10.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, sweet.
So Ron, how do they homestead land now? We got people asking can I homestead land? Now, I thought homesteaded land was land that the government was giving up for you to go improve, and that's how you would homestead it.
Well, that is under what's called the homestead patent. You had to make a claim for a property to stake it out. If you were one person, you could get as much as 162 acres. And if you were a husband and wife, you could get 340 acres.
Okay. Interesting.
How would you do that nowadays?
You can't, because Congress unlawfully stopped funding the land patents, and there's no constitutional provision for that. If you look at Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2 of the U.S. Constitution, it says that the land is for disbursement, is to be dispersed. That means out of the government trust hands and into the private sector. They did that east of the Mississippi, but everything west of the Mississippi, they started holding back. And that's why we got millions and millions of acres, supposedly government land, and there ain't an acre of it that is government land unless it's a military base. So
now the government was the trustee of the land, correct?
That is correct.
And then now my understanding too is that the sale of the land, the purpose of the sale of the land was to educate the inhabitants of the land, and it was supposed to go to their education. Is that correct or not?
Well, indirectly. The purpose of disposing of the land was because, number one, it was constitutionally required. And number two is the fact that it was to promote the development and the wealth of a nation, and also the growing of cheap food, or the production of cheap food to feed a nation.
Yes.
That was the whole, because the homestead is an agricultural patent for another name for it.
Okay.
But that's what, go ahead.
So now something that we have happening here in Utah is Utah and Nevada are battling over water rights. They're battling over aquifers right now. But what we've also got is in Utah, we've got these foreign countries are coming in and buying up all of our farmland because they figured out, wow, rather than purchase it here and send it over there, it's easier to come over here and grow it and send it back to them with no duty on it.
That's correct.
And they're using up all of our water, all of our resources, and they're sending it back over there.
And our available land to grow food for people in this country.
Yes.
See, that's what I'm saying. We have done some stupid stuff and allowed some stupid stuff to transpire in this country. And there's a scripture in my Bible that says, God will not be mocked, you will reap what you sow. And as a nation, we have sown some bitter, bitter seed that has now come back to poison us in our daily life.
Yes.
You realize we're losing over 1,100 acres a day for the last 30 years, taken out of production?
Oh, absolutely.
Figure that out. 7 days a week, 365 days a year for the last 30 years at 1,100 acres a pop.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I want to add to that, guys. This is why we talk about the seminar, why I called it Your Rights, Your Life. A lot of people don't want to hear about politics because they want to keep the blinders on, but this is all about politics. We as a country didn't do this. Our politicians have done this to us because they're on the dole of all these other people that want access to this stuff.
But we didn't make them toe the line.
Yes.
We didn't monitor the people that we elected. And therefore, when you turn the fox loose in the chicken house, you're going to wake up the next morning with no chickens left.
Yes.
Dead ones. So, I mean, that's kind of the illustration. But I have a sidebar question for you, Ben.
Sure.
How come you haven't had me come and do a seminar in Salt Lake City?
That is a great question, and we're going to have to fix that.
Well,
Because what I'm doing right now, Ron, is as I start drumming up the interest, I could speak eloquently as to what David Straight teaches because I've been a hardcore student. I'm just barely getting into the land patent process of that right now and taking that on so that we can help other people do their land patents. And so you're definitely on the list. You and I talked about the pricing of the seminars and whatnot. We've just got to I've got to make that happen, and I will.
No, I'm just asking. I'm not throwing stones, but
Oh no, I want to get you here.
every landowner out there needs to attend my land patent seminar.
Yes.
It is loaded. If you look in my book, there, just thumb through it, there's case law from the front to the back cover. And the reason that I did that when I wrote the book, I didn't want somebody coming back later on and say, well, Ron, that's just your opinion. There's nothing in this book that is just Ron's opinion. I can prove everything that I say. The same thing with my tax book, that you're not a slave.
So Ron, just from the phone conversations that you and I have had, from what I've learned out of the seminars, plus now I'm going down and I'm going through the process of the land patent on my own home. I got onto TikTok not even a week ago, and I started explaining through what you've expressed to me how they don't own their own home. And literally within less than a week, it went from the first day that I did it to now here we are almost a week later, and I've had 363,900 views as of today. And so this is how people are literally mind blown as to, and there's so many people in here saying, you don't know what you're talking about. And that's what it comes down to, is they truly don't understand what's happened to us as a country and how they've literally ripped our rights, freedoms, and liberties away from us, which going back to, that's why we call the seminar Your Rights, Your Life. We want to bring them all up to speed as to how we take all this back.
Well, that's been a mission of mine for about the last 35 years. If I can use the expression, have been standing on the rooftop screaming at the top of my voice, you better get your title in your hand or you're not going to have any land.
Yes.
Let alone no title, no land. That's kind of the adage that it boils down to. But I just got back 3 weeks ago from a seminar that I did in Wisconsin, and we had a lot of people there, and the people were just shocked to death about the information and I'm not saying this, guys, to pat Ron on the back. That's not
No,
the point at all.
Yeah.
it's information that has to get out.
Yeah.
We're not looking to take credit, Ron, and you've got two warriors coming up behind you to boost you up and also start screaming from the rooftops. But Brad's got a core team. I've got a core team here that we work with so that we can get this message out. We just need more people to know the message so that we can get it in front of more people and we can all take action.
Right.
Well, let me say this. The one thing that I have found in all the time that I've been doing this, to do a face-to-face seminar is one of the most effective means. You can reach more people by the video and the email and all that, but it doesn't explain it in depth like I do at the seminar.
Yes.
If you understand my point.
Yes.
I can look people in the eye, and I'm an eye guy. I've been a marriage counselor off and on for about the last 30 years. I don't do it full time, nor did I then. But you learn a lot about people's facial expressions or eye movement or body movement, and I can tell whether I'm reaching them or not.
Yes.
And then people come up and I'm just bombarded always. I don't get to eat a lunch. I don't get to go to the bathroom, because people want answers, and I do my best to try to facilitate that. But I'm just saying I need to be on your, as a guest on there and many other places that we can get me on it for the purpose of spreading what it is that you're trying to get the point across. I mean, I feel, but I can't force you to do it, nor do I want to, but I'm saying it needs to be done.
Oh, absolutely. And we want to do it. Didn't you just get back from St. George, Utah?
I'm going there the 26th of this month.
That's right.
This 2 weeks from day after tomorrow.
Is that you're doing a seminar, Ron?
Yes.
He's doing a seminar
Okay.
in St. George, Utah.
Yeah, everybody heard that. St. George, Utah, the 26th of February. Yeah,
Yeah.
26th is a 2-day. How long is the seminar?
I'm sorry?
How long is the seminar? Is it like a 2-day?
It's a 1 day.
Okay.
And I do 2-day seminars. Normally, I do 1 day on the patent, and the second day I do on You're Not a Slave. And I bring in additional stuff in support of that. But I can do either, depend upon what people are willing to attend. So
But a standard seminar for you includes both, right?
I'm sorry?
A standard seminar for you would include both.
No.
What does a standard seminar for you?
Well, normally it's just a 1 day unless we get enough people to come to the second day seminar. Because then they're sitting for about 16 hours, 8 hours a day for 2 days.
All right. Well, and we'll
I
get
got
you-
something
yeah,
to say to that because our seminars are 3 days,
3
Ron.
days.
Yeah.
And this is what I say to people because they say, well, gosh, that's 3 days. And hey, freedom is not free. And if you're not willing to go sit in a seminar to learn about it, you got to reevaluate that.
Well, I tell people kind of the same thing. My seminars for the 1 day is $250. Okay? And I have people tell all the time, oh man, that's too much. And then I ask the question point blank, then what's your property worth? You're telling me you're not willing to spend $250
Right.
of what's to save, and they get a book with that. I mean, there's basically a $50 book that is part of that. So
Ron, I have a question for you, man. So
go ahead.
how long does the process, and Ben, you can speak to this too, but how long does the process take to get your land patent? I mean, is there, and maybe, but yeah, let's start with that question, please. Yeah.
Well, let's back up a little bit. Let me give you the elements that's needed to put your land patent sandwich together, okay?
Okay.
The first thing that's needed is a copy of the original land patent that affects your property.
Okay.
Okay.
Where do you get that?
Well,
You get that
hang on
from
a minute.
the county recorder?
Hang on a minute. The second thing that is needed from you would be, I mean, if you're going to have me do it or whatever, but I would encourage people to have me do it because it's a legal document and it better be done right. I had a lady some years ago in Northern California. She said, well, I'm going to do this myself. And I said, well, I'd like to encourage you to let me do it because if you don't, you can get in trouble. Well, she went ahead and did it anyway, and she was claiming other people's land on the thing, and she got arrested for that and went to trial and was sentenced to 7 years in jail.
Oh,
So I'm just, if you hear what I'm saying, that
You have to be precise.
it has to be precise and legally accurate. Simply because if you don't, then somebody can come after you because they can claim fraud, they can claim intent to commit fraud, they can intend all kinds of shit that attorneys bring up in a case. So, okay, the second thing that if I were doing it for you is I need an unbroken chain of title from you back to the patent.
okay.
So what that consists of we've got to do the research.
On that, that is correct, because I'm not in Utah.
So now say that again, need an unbroken chain of title on the patent. So
Yeah.
that's back to the patent.
That is correct.
That's where all the work's at.
Well, yeah, it takes some effort, but the information's there. You have to either go to the archive records if the computer doesn't have it or the microfiche doesn't have it. And that's what the recorder's office have done. They've cut all that old stuff out because they've been trying to destroy the patent or any vestige of it for the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah, I'm going through that right now. So I've been down there at the county recorder's office. First off, went to BLM, got the original land patent of that area. Now I'm going back through, I'm already in microfiche.
Yeah.
Because they have books that are existing, then they have prior to the books is now microfiche.
Well, the archive books were preceded the microfiche because everything was handwritten. Then when they came up with microfiche, then they put it on that. And then when
Okay.
you see the progression of it.
Yes.
But one of the problems with the archive books, those people had such beautiful handwriting. We don't write like that anymore, and it's hard to read some of them.
My mother wrote like that. I write like that still.
I admire that because everybody tell me I should have been a doctor because I write like one. But anyway, but the point that I'm making here, and then the third thing that I need is the first 2 pages of your warranty deed.
Hey, Ron, is a warranty deed, a grant deed, the same as a warranty deed? It's just called something different in different states.
A grant deed is a deed without being guaranteeing the title. That's why it's warranty. That means they're warranting. They're guaranteed that title or that land is not encumbered by something.
Okay.
So say that again. A grant deed is a what?
A grant deed is one without the title company's guarantee stamp on it.
Huh. Okay.
One title is guaranteed, the other is not.
Got you. So if we were to have, like, for example, if I was to have you do one for me, how long does it take about, you know, I mean, if we were to give you everything, like you have all the stuff you're talking about, how long does it take? I'm just trying to, you know, because people have that question. A lot of
I can get it done if you give me everything that I need. I can have it done in 3 days.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's quick. Okay. So it's not like a month.
How much is that cost, Ron, for you to do it?
I charge $1,000.
Boom.
And what does that $1,000 get? What happens?
That puts that whole sandwich package together so that you're ready now to post it. Land law states that you have to post that in any government building bulletin board for 60 days. Actually, it has to be 61 days because after I wrote the book, I found a court case that the court said that the first day was not a full day. If you post at 11 o'clock, half of the first day is gone already.
Yes.
So it has to be 60 full days. So, but anyway, but it has to be posted for that 60-day for public notice. And that came out of, that's what it took when you applied for a patent, that had to be posted for 60 days. So they carried that time period right on through.
Okay, and you said it has to be posted in a governmental building?
In any government building bulletin board. And there's another way to do it because a lot of the government buildings don't even have bulletin boards anymore. And if they do, all they want to do, like courthouses, all they want to do is put foreclosure notices and lawsuits. So,
Yeah, we've noticed some people here were trying to post them in either post office or wherever they could get them to, and they were tearing them down within a few days.
and that's my point, and I'm going to tell you how we fix that. What you do is you set up a temporary website. Are you with me?
Yep.
Create a brand new, nothing in it but just blank to start with. And then you take all the pages of my patent sandwich and you scan them in sequence that they are in the package. So that from start to finish, the ending document will be the land patent, the start document will be the certificate of acceptance, and all of the interim items in between that. And then you go to your local newspaper and you take out in the legal section a very, very short ad. I, Ron Gibson, am bringing forward my land patent. If interested, see, then give the website. That way nobody can tear it down, nobody can destroy it, nobody can damage it. Okay?
Beautiful.
And you have to keep that in that local paper for how many days?
Well, you got to do it for 60 days.
For the 60 days. Okay.
Now, you only have to do it twice a week, but you got to do it at least twice a week or more for the full 2 months. Now, the days that you pick that you want that published there, then you need to buy that paper and you cut that ad out with the date of that newspaper and put it in your file. And then they say this on Tuesday you start. Then you got another one on Thursday. I'm just picking a day. You cut that out of a newspaper, put that in. So now you got two notices out of that paper for that 1 week. Then the next week you do the same thing for the full 2 months. And that way, if anybody were to challenge you, you can prove that you did what you did. So
Yep. Beautiful.
That way
documented.
you don't have to be checked. If you post it on a bulletin board, you got to check it at least once a week. Just like you said, Ben, they're tearing them down. And that's a federal crime to do that.
Yeah, but that's the problem is so many of these people have no idea of what the law is or what legal is. And on top of that, they're just going by what somebody above them tells them.
That's correct. So that's how you fix that problem. You do it by a temporary website. At the end of the 61 days, then you destroy that website and you got your document in your file. Actually, you got two of them because I send back 2 complete documents. They're exactly the same. You have to have them witnessed at your signature and you have to have them notarized. You do that on both sets of documents. They're exactly the same.
Okay.
Okay?
Beautiful. Beautiful. So now it might be kind of obvious to some, maybe not so much to others, but what are the benefits of getting a land patent?
The only title that you'll ever have on your land. Number 1. Number 2 is the fact you're not subject to government rules and regulation.
Which
Okay.
would be your statutes and your corporate bylaws.
Yeah, all of that government regulation, permits, building codes, setbacks, all of that stuff has no authority over that because your patent is an allodial title.
Oh, so in my situation on my house, I want to build a garage in the back. But the reason they won't allow me to build a garage in the back is because it's too close to my home to have an unattached. And if I do an attached garage to my house, it's too close to the landline.
See, and that's bullshit. It's your
I know it is.
That's
It's
what I was
crazy.
saying. Yeah.
Let me read you something. And for those of you who have my book or will have, look on page 5. The following is a reference from the General Land Office book, page 28 and 29, dated 1870. Quote, the individual title derived from the government involves the entire transfer of the ownership of the soil and water. It is purely allodial, with all the incidents pertaining to the title as substantial as an infancy of a Teutonic civilization, Following in the wake of the fundamental reform in our state land laws are several other corollaries which constitute appropriate corollaries. Excuse me. The next paragraph is monumental. Listen to this. The statute of use was never adopted in the public land states, and hence the complex distinction between use, USE, or uses, and trust has never embarrassed our jurisprudence. Now, what do you think that means?
I think it means that yeah, it says right there that we never actually adopted any of that stuff. So it's all fraud from the beginning, right?
Okay, that's part of it. But what that is saying, as you know now, you can have a neighbor down the street, doesn't like the fence you put up, doesn't like the color of the house you did, or they're claiming you got too many cars on your property, so they send the code enforcement people.
Yes.
The code enforcement people have absolutely no authority over your allodial title patented land. None. The only authority that a state has, and all states have it, is called the police power, is when you're doing something on or with your land that is a direct threat to public health, safety, and welfare.
Yes.
That's the only item that precludes them, and I address that in my trespass part of my book. So all I'm saying to you in this, that they're saying in this paragraph, for anybody to bring that kind of a suit to a court is an embarrassment to the court.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's powerful right there.
They're allodial titles.
I've never embarrassed.
There's no standing, no privity to bring that kind of a suit. And the courts are saying to bring that in our court to try to infringe upon somebody's private property is an embarrassment. That's how secure these patents were intended to be.
Which is why they're trying to eliminate them.
Absolutely.
Right, of course. Now is there any cons to doing it? I mean, I know there's tons of benefits, but is there any drawbacks? Because that's usually what people get, especially with the status correction. What am I giving up? Are you giving up anything?
Well, you may have to stand up and defend your land, because there's always going to be somebody trying to tell, well, that patent doesn't mean anything and we don't care, and you're going to do it or we're going to force you to do it. So you need to stand up. But every person needs to do that anyway.
Amen, brother. Thank you.
We got people who want somebody else to defend them and to do all of the groundwork, and they don't want any liability. They don't want any effort or whatever. So the other, and I call it a positive and a negative, but the other thing is that you cannot put a lien on. Now that's a benefit when there's somebody trying to lien your property, like an IRS lien. Mm-hmm. Because if you look, and you want to write this down, under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, and it states down in that just a little ways that you cannot impair the obligation of contract.
Right.
Okay? And the other one is they cannot legislate a bill of attainder, and they cannot legislate an ex post facto law. Anytime you have anybody comes after you for something you're doing with their property, they have violated all three of those constitutionally. They're protected because your rights that are protected that go along with a land patent are called vested rights, which mean nobody can change it, alter it, diminish it, separate it. You and your land are protected.
Okay, so then my question would be, what's the best place? Well, I got a couple. One is your home. So let's say you have a mortgage on your home, but you got a land patent. Is your home protected by that patent? If that even makes sense, right?
Yes, because it's
fixed.
It's an appurtenant to the land. It's connected to the land.
What was that term? Appurtenant?
Appurtenant.
Okay. Right. So then is this best to put your land patent into a trust, or would you want to put it into a PMA?
Well, you're getting into a whole different subject matter. I don't like trust.
Yeah, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole.
I haven't found a trust yet that I can't break, with the exception of a a oh, my mind went blank. I want to call it a common law trust. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Okay.
So a common law trust can't be broken.
I've never found a way to do it.
But the thing anyway is under land patent, nobody can pierce that anyway, correct?
That's correct. So why do you put it in a trust? See, the courts have stated all of this fictitious company, corporations, trust, is a figment of man's imagination. That's what the court said it was.
Yes.
So how do you take something positive and put it into something negative and think that the negative is going to protect the positive?
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
So the only thing that really would go into a trust has nothing to do with the land, even though the house is a portion of the land. The things going into your trust is any of your real property, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
You wouldn't have to put your land into a trust if you have
that makes
a
sense,
land
right? Because it's that's even more secure than the trust, is what you're saying, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
It's
beautiful.
more secure than that patent because it's protected by treaty law and on and on and on it goes.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Ron. Is there, you and I talked before, the mortgage go into when you buy a home and it goes into title, you sign a contract and a promissory note. Go into that stuff.
Well, I have to let you know, I've got another conference like we're doing here in about 7-8 minutes.
Okay.
So we can convene this later on. I'll be glad to talk to you guys.
Okay, let's start where we left off, Ron. Explain what happens when people go through title.
When they do what?
When they go through title. So they go through and they sign the contract and they sign the promissory note.
Well, first of all, there is no contract. If you look at the definition of the law of contract, all relative parties have to sign. All relative factors have to be disclosed. And there has to be acknowledged, it's either an open-ended contract or one with what we call a sunset clause. In other words, there's a time limit on it. None of the bank documents do any of that. The bank never signs either one of them. And the promissory note is not a promissory note in the sense that people think it is. That in essence is a check or can be used as a check. And that's what pays off the property. The promissory note can be used in one of two fashions. Number one, it can be used as a check, and after the 4th day, the first 3 days of any mortgage so-called agreement has a 3-day revocation period. In other words, you can back out of it. The end of the 3rd day, then in essence, they either cash that with the International Monetary Fund that holds the account, has to do with your birth certificate account, and then they then send the money to not the mortgage company, but the title company, who then pays off the seller. Are you with me?
But that comes from the International Monetary Fund.
I'm sorry?
That comes from the International Monetary Fund.
Yeah, because they're the ones that do all of these interbank transfers of funds. So they're the ones that's the holder of your birth certificate account. So your own money, per se, is paying off the mortgage before you ever step foot on the property. Or they can take that promissory note and then take and monetize it and then securitize it, which banks get thousands of those a day of real estate transactions. They then send them to Dun & Bradstreet. Dun & Bradstreet then rates them and then sends them on to Wall Street, where they're broken up into hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of stock and then sold on the stock market. So you don't know who the owner is, because under land law, for there to be a foreclosure, it has to be at the directive of the owner. Well, here you have hundreds, if not thousands, of owners in relative to portions of stock. So the courts have defended the banks that are actually nothing more than servicing agents.
Yes.
Mellon Bank in New York, and therefore here we go. Now we're on this very unlawful treadmill. 45 days later, you get a payment book, and you're obligated to pay for property that you've already paid, that is already paid off, and then plus the agreed upon interest. So the bank has nothing invested. Absolutely nothing invested.
But that money's going back to the bank or the mortgage company that facilitated the documents?
Yes.
So they're double dipping.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why they don't have any lawful claim to your property. That's the reason that I encourage people to file a motion for quiet title. Now you've taken the monkey off your back of making payments and put them in a position they have to defend that. Then when you go into depositions, you start asking the cold hard questions. Would you please provide the true bill? They are not going to want to do that because the true bill means that it's paid off, and it was paid off by your promissory note of one of the two methods that I mentioned.
Okay, so explain to me this then. In the 2008 debacle with all the loans, they said, oh, we took some garbage loans and we took all these garbage loans and we sprinkled some good loans on top of them. What did they mean by that?
Well, they were trying to camouflage that any and all liens per se were garbage loans. They're claiming good ones on top of that. All that means is that the people had the asset value and or credit to go, because a lot of those then were called no-doc loans. In other words, you didn't have to prove anything. You just applied for the loan and you got it. So then they foreclosed on it. But here's what people do not understand. The stimulus package that Obama signed in 2009 has a provision in that to where the banks, if they were to foreclose or had to foreclose, which is bullshit from hell, but nevertheless, if they did that, then they got 80% from the stimulus package to reimburse the banks for those so-called bad loans. Well, they considered all of them bad loans. So every foreclosure, because a lot of people that had the credit, had the money, had the job, lost their job because of the recession and the bubble pop, so they lost too. So then there's an issue of unjust enrichment that the bank gets, plus they got 80% of the original value, plus they got all of the payment schedule on the thing. They raped the people and our government tax fund by these deals that Obama gave them by signing that stimulus bill. And then, of course, all the politicians got a kickback for voting for it.
Wow.
Oh,
all those homes were already paid for.
All of them were paid for.
So this is why your house doesn't go into bankruptcy either, correct?
Well,
I had heard your house doesn't go through the bankruptcy process.
Well, everything that is on the so-called contract goes into bankruptcy. I don't know where you heard that from, but that's not so.
David Straight had said your house doesn't go through the bankruptcy process.
And how come they take the bank or take the house?
Well, that's what I was wondering. That's why I wanted to clarify that.
Okay, so quick question: Have either of you guys ever read any of David Robinson's books?
No.
There's these little guys. One of them is called "Money Doesn't Grow on Trees. Give Yourself Credit," or maybe it's "Give Yourself Credit. Money Doesn't Grow on Trees." One of those two.
I've seen the cover of that, but I've not read the book.
It's what you're talking about, Ron, and so it really flipped economics on its head for me. Is like when you walk in, we are the sureties, right? And David actually talks about this. We are the underwriters.
That is
correct.
It
takes natural persons, in their word, or a living soul to walk in and create that first. So when I walk into a bank and I say, "Hey, Mr. Bankman, I need $1 million loan for a home," they're like, "Okay, cool, sign here." As soon as you sign, you create that money.
You also create a bond.
See, and I didn't know that. Please, could you go into more depth there, please?
Yeah, I'll get into that in a minute here. But
Okay.
you create a whole lot of things. Number one is the fact that the bank has no liability here because
No, they're a facilitator, right?
they're a facilitator, exactly. So they take your signed promissory note that you were defrauded in telling you that that had to be da 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 and all of the bullshit they use with that, or they monetize it and then they securitize it, like I just mentioned. It goes to Wall Street. So on the basis that they take the land and the home, everything, that's what's included in the promissory note. And if you don't pay, then they take it all. So the home's not excluded from that at all. That's why your land patent is so important, guys, because then the banks cannot foreclose. If you look in my book, and then you've got a copy of it, start reading from about page 90 to roughly 100, and you'll see that I address the issue of foreclosures. The courts have no choice in that but to issue a motion for constructive trust judgment, because they can't take the land, but they can have the person that supposedly owns the land to make payments. Now, the thing about that that's good, let's say you're $1,500 a month payment, and you say, I can only make $300 a month, that court has to accept that number. You're not obligated to pay the $1,500.
Whoa.
But they can force you under that administrative procedure simply because you dealt with it under administrative process. That's the so-called contract. Everything in administrative process is contract, either direct or indirect adhesions or actual contracts. So that's kind of how that whole system works.
Wow.
Hey, is land that's in a land patent subject to zoning regulations?
It's not zoning to any of that because it's an allodial title. Remember what I said earlier?
Earlier, yeah.
Allodial title, the definition, never forget this. The allodial title definition is owing to no one. Okay?
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Nor to any lord nor superior. Now then, who has the authority to intervene in your land?
No one.
No one. There you go, Ken. And what that means is that you're king of your land. That's why when the Constitution was sent to the Commonwealth of Delaware for signing, the people that were the signers or intended signers from the Commonwealth of Delaware looked at that document and said, there's something missing. So they added a paragraph in there. And what did that paragraph say? 3 main words. We the people. By doing that, they created a situation for every American to be the king of their land.
Nice.
That's
So
beautiful.
now you got two authorities that makes you king. We the people, and the issue of the allodial title. Allodial title, when you go back to the king of England and Britain and all of that stuff, the king was the only one that had land, and it was allodial land, which means the king's land.
Yes.
So
Now Ron, that would also be why they turned us into citizens through the birth certificate process, which took us out of being we the people, correct?
that is correct.
Yep.
But putting us into U.S. citizens was a fraud on its own.
Yes.
Whenever
14th
fraud
Amendment?
is exercised, then it negates any and all contracts. So we're not bound to that. But the American people just swallow that shit like a hungry fish after a worm. We wonder why we get hooked into this stuff.
Because they turned us into citizens of Washington, D.C., correct?
That is correct.
Which now took us off the land that we were in because D.C. is a territory.
That is correct. And therefore they gave you a postal zip code which identifies you as a federal district. That's all the purpose of a zip code. It isn't to help the mail to get from point A to point B. That's all bullshit. That's just more smoke and mirrors.
to put us under jurisdiction. So now,
Right.
is that why you got to put the zip code in brackets?
That means that zip code does not exist in law.
According to the Chicago Style Manual. Is it Chicago Style Manual, right? Or is it whatever? Yeah, right. Because that's anything that's blocked, right? It has something to do with the style manuals and
Yeah.
it might, right? Yeah. Very interesting stuff.
Well, it just means that we're being duped everywhere.
Well, yeah, and that's what so where you're standing on the rooftop screaming, Ron, Brad and I are breaking it down into bite-sized pieces so that more people can understand it from a more layman standpoint. Because that's what's been missing is it's number one, they've dumbed us all down through indoctrination, and now we've got to break it down to the simplest terms so that we can get people to understand it. We're doing a good job of that right now.
And that's true, and that's what I do in my patent seminars. People come up to me all the time. My God, I didn't know, I didn't realize, you know, da-da-da-da-da-da. And
Yeah,
I've been
well,
told I'm a pretty good communicator, and I don't say that to pat Ron on the back. I'm just saying that, you know, call it a God-given gift if you please, or whatever. I've always been very, very adept to communicating subject matter to other people.
Yes. Now, Ron, is there any difference between land out in the middle of nowhere versus land in a city?
No, that makes no difference. As long as the issue is the land. I got people calling me all the time or email. Well, I live in a townhouse, or I live in a condominium. Can I apply the patent to that? And the question is, do they own the land? It's not about buildings and dwellings, it's about land.
Yes.
And you have to own the land. The law says you have to show that you're an owner of record. That's part of the 5 things that I shared with you guys before. You have to have the patent, you have to have the notice document, you have to have the unbroken chain of title, you have to have the proof that you're the owner, that being your warranty deed that's stamped, and then the certificate of acceptance.
Okay, so hold on for a sec, because we only covered 3. We have to have the copy of the original land patent, need the unbroken chain of title back to the land patent, first 2 pages of the warranty deed.
That's all that I need from you. I supplied the rest of it.
Okay, so I have a question for both of you gentlemen. How do we get people to recognize to stop involving the bar association? How do we get this information out? Because I think that's really kind of one of the most basic things that we start to learn through this process is who really, and I don't want to say enemy, but really who we're battling is really the bar association, right? I mean,
well,
and attorneys.
They're the point men in all of these different crooked transactions, because the bar association's crooked. It's all part of the Vatican. And a lot of people don't like to hear that, but it's true. That's why the judges wear a black robe and the priests wear a white robe. And they pawn all of the dirty laundry that they want done off to the courts and the judges.
Yes.
All in cahoots together.
Well, because a lot of people don't realize this, and they think the Vatican is about the church, and I'm like, the Vatican is a bank.
That's correct. That is correct. It's
and
not
a territory, right? Yeah.
The church, quote, is a front.
Yes.
It's the Wizard of Oz, the curtain there, and all the smoke and mirrors and shit that goes on behind the curtain. That's the Vatican.
Okay. So now let's talk about other countries, Ron, because you and I talked about that earlier today. What other countries does this apply to? Canada?
Canada, they have what's called a crown patent, but same basic issue. Britain has patents. Australia has patents, and I believe that New Zealand does. I don't know in South America of what their patent issue, or their land titles, I should say, consist of. I've never had a chance to really look into that.
Now, isn't there on the meets and bounds here in the United States, isn't there something about a queen pin or something about the meets and bounds markers?
Well, the meets and bounds is the original survey and survey done by the government surveyors when there was an application for patent. That's the township, the range, the section, and where you're located within that section. That's the meets and bounds. And to get your land patent, that's what you need, all 4 of those items, not just 3, but 4 of them, to determine which land patent that applies to the property that you now own.
Okay, quick question based right on that is, where can people find a surveyor who will write land in meets and bounds? That's a question we've had come up. So,
well, the answer to that is, if it isn't listed on your warranty deed there, then get a hold of your local county surveyor and tell him your address, and he can tell you what your meets and bounds are.
okay, beautiful. So local county surveyor.
I've had people go out and have their whole property surveyed, and I said, no, that is not necessary. Go to your county surveyor and ask him for help. Say, hey, I need your help.
If it's not listed already on the warranty deed, you're saying,
Exactly.
Okay, assuming that
they always put it on your map or your warranty deed or whatever, but they've got away from that now because
they do descriptions now instead of meets and bounds.
Exactly. So then they give an address. The address is the address that the county, the state, the federal government, whoever places upon that. That's where they're claiming you live. That's not where you live. You live on your meets and bounds property. That's the true address to that property.
But as far as being a citizen, you live in Washington, D.C., and you reside where your address is at.
No, what you do, you are in a federal district is where you reside. That's
Okay.
why they issued zip codes. That's so that the people would unknowingly be subject to federal government rules and regulations by virtue of their zip code.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Hey, isn't it true that Canada's the 13th district of the United States? Is that
13
accurate?
Districts.
Right, the 13th, but that's Canada, right? It's
Well,
registered.
there's 13 districts under Washington, D.C.
Right, but Canada is the 13th. That's what I learned from David anyway. Maybe I'm off, but from what I recall from him saying is that Canada, and we went and verified it, that Canada is a registered corporation in Washington, D.C.
And that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So it's not the 13 districts, it's the 13th.
That's what
district.
Canada is, right? Right.
Right.
There's the United States is broken up into 12 districts, and then you have Canada, which is the 13th.
Okay. And I know all that came from how they were doing the original trading companies were going up into Canada and bringing everything back down, was my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Very interesting.
What else you got, Ron? What else can you share? Drop some more wisdom on us.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you got a lifetime?
Well, you know what I think is like really important at this point is like we want to support you, Ron, and you're a champion. Even though we just met, but I know in the circles in this whole movement, you're very well looked upon. And so, but what's the best place to buy your book? I mean, we've been talking about your book. We've been talking about all this stuff. It's really your knowledge and everything that you're.
We're getting ready to do some things with Ron where we're going to start selling the books through the websites.
Okay.
And so that's the statenational.us. They can buy them there. Ron's sending me more books. What other ways do you want, Ron?
Well, they can buy them in the interim time from me directly, so I don't have a major outlet on them, and I have not done that because I allowed a guy to print some books, and he betrayed that trust, and so I said, bullshit, I'm not doing that.
Yes.
And somebody that had to do with a entity back in Michigan let out an electronic version of my book. And
I've seen somebody put it out on Telegram too, and I told them to get it off of there.
Exactly. Because I gave nobody authorization to do that at all. But
Yeah.
that's the thing. You got all these betrayers, and people that will exploit any and all opportunity. So, but anyway, to answer your question, in the interim time, get them from me.
Okay. And where do we go to find you?
Well, you got a pen, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
Okay, it's Ron Gibson.
Ron Gibson.
Yes, my address is 11 North, that's an N with a period, Peach Street, like a fruit you eat off a tree.
Peachy.
11 North Peach Street, Medford, Oregon, just like it sounds, Medford. And that's 97501. This is the zip. My phone number is 541-621-5548.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this is a major part of our seminar that we do. So we want to push those books as much as we can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then Ron's got some other books. Ron, name your other books again.
Yeah, it's You're Not a Slave. That has to do, I prove that you're not obligated to pay property tax.
Beautiful.
So we want to start researching into that stuff and make that part of what we're doing too, Brett.
Yep. Absolutely. Without a doubt.
So,
And Ben, real quick, tell everybody how they can find you. What's up?
Ben Barlow for right now, B22 Barlow, BARLOW @gmail.com is my email. 801-631-4108 is my phone number. Statenational.us, STATENATIONAL.us. There's some other people out there trying to copy our website. And so they've got State Nationals with an S, but they're just trying to siphon off of us because they know that we're putting out a lot of hardcore truth that goes against what they're teaching. And so we just want to make sure people get their status, standing, and jurisdiction taken care of properly so that they don't get trapped up in the judicial system, which is obviously under Admiralty Maritime Law and many of these things that Ron talked about.
Yep. Okay. And then your TikTok is what?
My TikTok is @breaking_Barlow. And it really, they're 3-minute videos and they have literally gone viral, guys. And in 7 days, it's 364 views on one of them.
364,000, not 364, 364,000 views, guys, not 364.
Almost 365,000.
Yeah, it's on freaking fire right now, man.
And it's talking exactly about what Ron is teaching through these land patent books, is that how you don't own your home, you have a warranty deed. So take a look and follow me on there, because what we're doing with these 3-minute videos is we're dropping this information out in bite-sized portions so that you don't have to go through and read a book. We want to get you into the seminars. We want to get you into the website. The thing about the website is we've got it to where you just can't go jump into the website. You've got to go in and you've got to buy the 3-day seminar video, which is, it's $80 to buy that video seminar, but it takes you through being able to watch those videos so that you understand exactly what Ron's teaching, because we touch on a portion of that, exactly how to take back your rights, freedoms, and liberties, and exactly the process that we have to do that by taking care of your status, your standing in your jurisdiction. And we've got processes to help you through that so that you don't have to just jack your brain up trying to do it yourself.
Yeah, because it's not easy, but by design,
it's a big process, and just like Ron's stuff, you got to do it properly or you're going to get yourself in trouble.
Yep.
Amen.
So Ron, I want to say thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for spending a little more time with us. And we look forward to spending more time with you. And we are going to do a seminar for you.
Yeah.
We'll start putting that together.
One thing that I want to bring up before we part, gentlemen, I don't remember the full name of it, but something that Snoops, when people want to go find out if something is.
Oh, Snopes. Yeah, Snopes. Yeah, Snopes. Yeah.
Snopes or whatever it is.
Yeah, they're a corrupt organization.
Yeah, corrupt garbage site.
Yeah, well, he's been an adversary of mine for a number of years, claiming that I'm a fraud and the land patent stuff doesn't mean anything. So if you hear anybody negative to that, I'd appreciate if you'd correct them for me.
Oh, I'm getting them right now on that video. Because there's a whole comment section in there. And they're coming on there, all this stuff doesn't work. You're a tinfoil hat wearing ball, blah, blah, blah. But you know what, Ron, at the end of the day, this is what I tell people. Look, guys, we're not here to wake up the sheep. We're here to wake up the sleeping lions because we need you to wake up, and we need you to start taking control of your life first, and then helping us take care of other people's jurisdiction and standing and status so that we can make them free. That's our whole point here, is to make you free and help you get to that point. And Ron is a huge part of that.
You know,
Yes.
I have to tell you, when this guy's been confronting me, he sent me several emails, and then a lady called me the other day and she said, boy, this guy's claiming you're nothing but a fraud and you don't know what you're talking about and you're not a constitutional lawyer and all of that. And I have to tell you, I have to laugh, because if you'll see in my book that the Supreme Court has never, the land patent has never lost at the Supreme Court level in over 180 years.
Yes.
Now, this land patent stuff is all bullshit. How come the Supreme Court is validating every time it comes before them? So,
Well, and I want to add to that, Ron. This is something that we all have to now realize how people are coming at us with this information that we are dropping true freedom seeds and wisdom upon them. This mentality that unless you have this super high dollar education that you've went through, you don't have an opinion and you shouldn't have an opinion is just all garbage. At the end of the day, those who research the best research material is going to have the information, and those people just utterly talking garbage and trying to shout you down, it's because they don't have the wisdom and they don't have the knowledge, and they are truly ignorant, not ignorant being stupid, ignorant being lacking knowledge, and they don't want you to look good because it's easier to drag you down. So
yeah, no,
Crabs in a barrel.
do your due diligence and do your research, and don't take that somebody else just shouts you down and says it doesn't work, because we know this stuff works.
but Ben, that's the very reason, excuse me, the very reason why maybe I brought it up to you earlier. I'm not sure. Just I got so much going on today. But why I wrote the book in the form that I did. It is loaded. I mean, loaded with case law.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can
Yeah.
prove everything that I say in that book by court cases, okay? Just thumb through that and look
That's
and
crazy.
see.
Yes.
Case law after
Case law. It's crazy. There's like 5 pages on how to do your land patent. The rest is just proof. It's
Yes,
amazing. It's amazing.
exactly.
And
And
so
that-
this is the thing about case law too, because I've gone through this in a recent lawsuit battle that I'm going through right now. Sometimes judges don't want to make opinion because case law is just the opine of the judge, right?
Yes.
And so when judges refuse to make their opinion known, it's they're hiding behind the scenes.
That's correct.
And those judges don't take the opportunity to step up and make that case law be the law that it needs to be. They don't want to make a decision because then it all falls upon their decision. And we need more judges that want to make case law.
But the thing that you need to remember, and I'm asking you guys to remember it, because in your circle you'll probably come across this. You'll have somebody come and say, well, I read a thing there to where the court in Wisconsin or Florida or wherever ruled against the patent, so those patents are no good. The problem with that mentality, those courts don't have jurisdiction to hear a land patent case.
And then on top of that, nobody challenged that court decision, and then it just sits.
That's what I'm saying, because they don't understand patents, they don't know nothing about it. I want you to write this down.
Okay.
Title 43, USC, stands for United States Code, Section 57 and 83. And what that says in there, Section 57, that a certified copy of any federal land patent can be brought into any court and all courts in the United States. And Section 83 refers to the courts must take judicial notice of that federal land patent and defend its what's the word I'm looking for?
It's authenticity.
Defend the validity and the authentication of that.
Yeah.
To defend its judicial notice as though it were the original patent.
Okay, so Ron, in a situation like that, because some judges want to bar evidence, you would probably want to put that in an affidavit as a copy, right?
You don't need to. I mean, you can if you want.
Well, but I mean, now it's in front of the judge and he's forced to accept it.
Yeah, you want to put the Title 43, USC 57 and 83.
Okay.
And that case that supports that is United States versus DeBell.
Okay.
But I'm just sharing with you. So if anybody tells you that these courts have ruled against the patent, they don't have authority to rule against it.
Okay. That's good to know. Now, Ron, isn't there some states that it's a little harder to do the land patents in than others? What about Hawaii?
Well, Hawaii is a whole different animal. I just did a seminar on the 26th of October. I did a 2-day seminar there. And David Strait was there the week before I was. And Ray Esri was there at the same time I was. There were about 5 or 6 speakers in that extravaganza, I guess, if you want to call it that. But Hawaii was, and to some degree, is still under a monarchy.
Yes.
And as a result of that, they don't really have titles to their land per se as though they were equal to the allodial title. Because in the United States accepted Hawaii as a state, all of those titles were pre-existing before they came under U.S. jurisdiction. So on that basis, there is a great deal of controversy about whether those monarch titles are still valid or not. So that's an ongoing battle, and that was a big topic when I was there and did the seminar. So
So if we've got some people there that have some land, can you expand on that a little, Brad?
What do you
If we
mean,
have
as
some
far-
people there that have some land and they want to do something with the land, is there anything special? Because now they used to have a king.
yes, that's what I'm saying. It was a monarchy.
And so then they pulled that kingship away from them. And that's what the Hawaiians are fighting for right now, is to get that back, aren't they?
Well, they're trying to get a position to where they have ownership of their land.
Yeah, of course.
It's no different than anywhere else in the world. People want to own land because with land, you have rights. And with rights, people got to leave you the hell alone. See, with the land patent, you have what's called vested rights. Those vested rights are so powerful because they're in law. They're part of the Constitution. They're in our Bill of Rights, as well as all the court cases that have come down to support the land patent. Reading this idiot on Snoops or Loops or Shithead, whatever his name is, on the thing, doesn't know what he's talking about. He's telling these land patents are absolutely phony documents.
Well, and he's part of the cabal. He's part of the
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
trying to support them and their evil ways. So
But
where would we find these vested rights, Ron? Where would they be listed?
well, they're in the Bill of Rights as a good portion of them.
Okay.
But in addition to that, you have all these court cases in my book there that have verified what the right is. You have a right of ownership, you have a right of kingship, you have a right of possession, you have a right not to be foreclosed on, you have a right not to be evicted off of the property, and on and on and on it goes. Besides that, all the water underneath the patented land belongs to the landowner.
Yes.
I've heard that about the mineral rights, right? And that's something about a land patent that I'm not
That's
sure we.
a separate estate. That falls under the mining law.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so that's
help me
different.
understand this. Part of that was if you have your land patented, because the founding fathers knew land without water was worthless.
That's
So
why
that's-
they issued it. That's why they issued the homestead. A homestead is an agricultural patent, and to do farming, you got to have water.
Yes.
So water became part of that. You have to have water for mining. All of those are granted rights within those enactments of Congress.
Okay, so now as far as it works with mineral claims, you still get all the mineral claims with the land patent, don't you?
Yes, you do. The mineral claims are converted to an allodial title called a mineral patent.
Is that a separate patent
I
you
was gonna
have
say,
to
is that
get, though?
separate? Yeah. So is that
Yes. I
Okay.
named them off to you there before we went on the break. There are 11 different patents, and one of them
Right.
is the mining patent. It's broke down into 3 separate parts.
Okay.
The
So you
main-
don't automatically get the mining mineral rights on that land. You have to ask for them.
Well, first of all, if you have mineral under your land that is not part of the patent, and early on it was part of it, but then when the mining law came into effect, then there were great conflict between the surface owner and the mineral owner.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
Congress said, okay, under what's called the Noble Act. The Noble decision states if mineral is known to exist prior to the issuance of the patent, then the mineral does not pass with the patent. It's a separate estate. You
Okay.
have a surface estate and you have a mineral estate. Now, because of Title 30, Section 1801 through 1811 with National Defense, the mineral estate is dominant over the serving estate of the surface. So that means that a miner could come in and mine your land, but he's got to pay you for the damage that he does in affecting the surface estate.
So he could have access to the land, to the minerals.
Yes,
Yes.
because it's a separate estate. And
Okay,
Okay.
so-
So now
what I do is if the mineral does not pass with my patent, then I file on that.
Now, so let me use an example. There's 200 acres up in this certain county that I want to get. If there's no mineral rights already claimed on it, I perfect the patent, then now what do I do to be able to grab onto those mineral
Well,
rights?
first of all, you need to do a mineral survey. Either you or somebody that understands mineral to go upon that 200 acres and to determine whether there is mineral there.
How would we find somebody that does that?
Well, there are miners all over Utah.
Okay. So it would just be any kind of miner would know how to do that.
Well, a miner that's got his head on straight, yes. A lot of miners are drunks and reclusive and you know, but anyway, I think you get the point. Because if you have to have a discovery in order to make a claim on a mineral.
So then the mineral sits there. I have to have somebody help assist me in finding what minerals are there, then
And
make that.
That's correct, to find out what minerals are there and is it economically to develop it. I mean, if you find one speck of gold, then in essence, that's not a valid claim because there
Yes.
isn't enough to promote.
How would I find a miner, Ron? Just out of
Home Depot, bro.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
you've got mining shops all over. Just start asking around. Somebody knows miners.
okay.
You could put a thing on the website and say would like to talk to an experienced miner or somebody who knows how to how to test for minerals or whatever you want to put
Well,
on.
I've got a friend that has a sapphire mine two sapphire mines up in Montana. So a meteorite came through there, hit the land in this certain area. It's called the El Dorado Bar, and turned what was underground into sapphires.
Yeah.
So he mines that stuff. So he would be a great place to look. Okay.
But most of your mineral is either gold or silver or copper. You know, there's industrial minerals too, which
Yes.
is your limestone, your dolomite, your diatomaceous earth, your rare earths. All of those are locatable minerals as well.
Cobalt's another one.
Yes, cobalt's another one. You know, uranium's another one.
Yes.
I mean,
Awesome.
it just goes on and on and on. The mineral world, well, I've been studying that for the last 50 years, and I'm still overwhelmed with what I'm learning.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm sure the list is endless.
Boy, God was no dummy when he made this earth, I'll tell you what.
Absolutely.
You know. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that the mineral estate, for the most part, is a separate estate. Now, when you look at a patent and you read through it, if you see the words subject to, that means there's a reservation relative to that patent of somebody that had a prior right to the time that the patent was issued. So you have to honor those. They are not passed with the patent. That's why it says you have your rights subject to vein or load or ditches or canals or whatever the reservation is. But the
Okay, so along that point, this land, this 200 acres that I'd been looking at, has not on the 200 acres, but a separate 60-acre parcel that had mineral rights that could be purchased with this land.
Yes. Yeah, you can purchase mineral rights, but you want to find out whether it's under a patent already or whether it's claimed. If it's not been filed on and the paperwork kept up, then you can go back and refile on that in your name. But if somebody already has it filed and you go to your county courthouse there or to the BLM and research the record to see whether because they have to do annual assessment work on it or pay the rental fee, whichever class that they're under.
Okay. And then now don't these mineral rights only last for there's a sunset time on them, isn't it, like 20 years or something?
No, they're only good for 1 year unless it's patented. That's why you have to renew that right of your claim every year.
Ah, okay.
So a lot of people have claim to patents and they don't file in time. They lose it by statutory legislation.
Okay.
It's called an abandonment.
But if you land patent that and you have that mining claim, you still have to renew that one too?
No, if it's under a patent, then it's free clear. It's the same thing as a homestead patent.
So that mineral claim would be basically like a permit that has to be renewed every single year.
That is correct. But if it's been patented, they quit patenting mineral claims in 1994. So they had no authority to cut it off. That was Bruce Babbitt in your part of the country.
Oh yeah, that cookie bugger. So now how do you get around that?
Well, you'd have to sue the government for unlawfully withholding the patents.
And has anybody tried to do that?
Not yet that I'm aware of.
Okay.
All right, fellas. Well, I hate to do it, but we gotta get kicking. But I think we need to we're gonna have to do a part 2 follow-up because this is gonna bring a tsunami of questions. I already know it. Right. So if you're willing, Ron, take some time, whatever, but we'll get some questions. I'd love to have you guys back. Ben, it's always a pleasure, my brother. I love you, man. Thank you.
Man.
Appreciate you, Ron. Thank you.
Ron,
I know
thank you for taking the time with us. We know it was a lot longer than we expected, but heck, it's a lot of questions, and I'll start putting together the ability for a seminar.
Let's do it. Yeah, I'd love to promote that and push that. I'd love to come up for that, and let's do that. And yeah, let's do this for sure.
Maybe we do a 4-day where Ron comes 1 day and David does 3.
Boom. Yeah, or a day where they do it together, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate you.
Yeah, well, mine's an all-day seminar, just like David's are. So
yep.
Beautiful.
Okay, we'll do what we can. Have a great weekend, Ron.
Yeah, and also Ben, you've got 30 books coming.
80.
I know, but the first thing I'm sending you is the 30.
Okay.
There'll be a follow-up, whatever. I could talk to the printers today, and they'll have those ready there probably Monday. So then when I get the full other 50, but I'm sending you 30 out of this package because I got to send 20 to a guy down in California.
Okay. And then you guys can purchase those books at statenational.us. Or hit me up with an email or even give me a phone call.
Okay.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron.
Have a great evening and have a great weekend.
So I'm going to bill you for 100 of them, correct?
You're billing me for 100 total.
That's correct. Okay, I just wanted to be sure.
Okay.
I sent you 20.
You already sent me 20. Now you're sending me another 30 to complete the case and then a whole nother case.
That is correct. Okay, I just wanted to be sure we're clear about that.
Yep, we're clear. And shipping.
And
Don't forget shipping.
No, I know, but I won't know that until they
Yes.
gave me the number. That's why I gotta wait
Yeah.
until they ship them. But she called today and wanted the address of them. I've just been so damn busy, I hadn't given it to her, so I need
Yeah.
to do that. So I have to leave tonight, so
Okay. Anything I can do to help you, Ron, let me know and I'll get back with you on that other stuff we
I
talked about.
appreciate it, guys. Take care.
Yeah. Hey, any way that we can ever help you guys in any way, yeah, let us know the same.
Thank you. Awesome, Brad.
All right,
Talk
guys.
to you soon,
All
brother.
right. Thanks for
Okay.
coming.
God bless
again.
you guys.
You
God
bet.
bless you. All right, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.